Have you ever been a passenger in a car, being driven to the same location day after day, but when it's your turn to drive, you don't know how to get there? Sounds familiar, right? So you may be asking yourself, what has this got to do with Zoom meetings? Well, there is a commonality here. Many of us attend a Zoom meeting that other people have called, and we simply show up. So essentially, we're passengers on the Zoom meeting while other people are doing the driving. However, at some point, you may need to call your own Zoom meeting, and invariably, you're going to have to share the screen. Not in every Zoom meeting, but in many Zoom meetings, you're going to have to know how to share the screen. Sharing the screen can be actually quite a complex process, and it's where most presentations begin to fail. Most organizers are not skilled at sharing the screen. Here, in this presentation, I'm going to give you 11 of my favorite tips on how to share the screen and look like a pro. My name's Sid Ragona, and I take the complex and try and break it down into simple steps. If you follow the 11 tips that I'm going to give you, you'll not only look like a pro, but the meeting that you've called will be organized, productive, and fun. Thank you. The most important tip I'm going to give is tip number 1. Tip number 1 is before you even start sharing the screen in Zoom, make sure you've already located the files you want to share. There's nothing that's going to destroy your credibility more than wanting to share information with people and they have to wait while you go around looking for it. So tip number 1, nothing to do with Zoom, but make sure that you have your files already open and ready to go. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, and this might be an obvious tip, but if you're going to be sharing the screen, you do need to know where the button is to share the screen. And it's actually on the bottom, in most cases, it's on the bottom of your screen. Let me show you. Let me bring the mouse down to the bottom here, and you can see it is Share Screen. So let's click Share Screen. And I've already got the files that I want to share ready to go. So tip number 2, share the screen. To actually open a file once you've shared the screen, you do have to double click on it, 2 left clicks. And there we go. In this particular case, I could say that I'm actually wanting to share the business model canvas by Strategizer. And here it is. Tip number 3 is actually a shortcut. Previously, we just showed that you can go down to the bottom menu or search around on your computer looking for the share button, but it's significantly easier if you know the shortcut, and the shortcut is Alt-S. Let me demonstrate this right now. Alt-S gives me the shared screen, and to simply open something, like we said before, we just double click on it. And again, there we are. Now, I would like to actually give a 4th tip, and a 4th tip is just as important. You're going to want to stop sharing the screen at some point, and therefore you can either go to the menu, in this particular case, we can see it at the top here, Stop Share. We can press that, and it would stop sharing. However, there's an easier way to do this. Rather than trying to find the Stop Share button, you simply press Alt-S again. Alt-S will take you out of sharing. There we go. Couldn't be easier. Tip number 5 is sharing video. Most likely, if you're sharing a PowerPoint, for example, or even a web page and there's some video there, what you hear coming from your screen when you're sharing the video sounds absolutely fine, and that's because you've got your speakers there and you can hear your own speakers. However, your audience is not hearing the same thing, and the reason they're not hearing the same thing is the fact that when you're playing the video clip, the sound is coming out of your speakers and then being picked up by the microphone and then transmitted to your audience, and it doesn't sound as good. No way. However, there is a way to solve this problem. So let's go to Share Screen, Alt-S, and we'll notice that before we've actually selected what we want to choose, we can go down to the bottom of the menu and it says share computer sound and optimize screen sharing for video clip. You want to make sure that both these are optimized, specifically if you're going to be playing any sort of music or video clip or a video you've downloaded or that's embedded in your PowerPoint. That's tip number 5. Tip number 6 is who can share the screen. Obviously you have the ability to share your screen, especially if you called the meeting, and you may or may not want your participants to share a screen. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. However, you are in control of that. So where is the control? The control is in security, and security is in the bottom menu down at the bottom here. Let's go to security, and there's a list of menus there, and if we look down, allow participants to chat, rename themselves, unmute themselves. These are all good things. But share screen I generally have off until I want them to share a screen. And to have them to be able to share a screen, simply click it. And now another participant, if I invite them to share a screen, can share their screen. Let's just go down to security to make sure that what I clicked is now on. Yes, participants are allowed to share their screen. Tip number 7, how to share only a portion of your screen. There are circumstances where you don't want everybody to see other things on your computer. So let me show you how we actually narrow down the part of the screen we want other people to see, and only that part of the screen. So let's do Alt-S. It gives us our standard menu where we actually want to share something on the screen here. But then at the top here we have Basic and Advanced, and it's the Advanced button that we want to go to. So let's go to Advanced, and then on the left hand side, portion of the screen, and now we press Share. And I've got my business model canvas PowerPoint here, and this green box, which I can click on the green box and move around, you can only see what's in, people will only be able to see what's in this green box. The green box can be resized, and it's you just click on the green box. Standard way that you resize a square, you click on the sides, move it back in, and there we go. Now if this was screen sharing and I had an audience, all they would be able to see is this part that's outlined by the green box. It's green when it's stationary, and that's what people see. Should you actually want to resize the box, move it around, it turns to a different color. For example, right now, because I'm moving the box around, it's turned to yellow. When you move it around like this, your participants can't see you moving the box. And this is important to know. Yellow means they can't see it. Green means they can. So if I want to put it over here, for example, and show something over here, there we go. It's green. This is exactly what they see. I now want it to move it to a different part of the menu and bring it up to here, and this is all they will see. This is a nice feature to have, and I haven't used it very much, but I can see a use for that. Anyway, that's tip number 7. Thank you. Tip number 8 is about changing from one presentation to another presentation when you're sharing the screen. So let's say I just finished sharing a PowerPoint, and now I want to go and share, say, the website of SCORE. So first let me get to the PowerPoint that I was presenting, Alt-S, and here we go. So I can say that I've finished presenting the business model canvas by Strategizer, and I actually want to look at something a little bit different. Let's say, for example, I want to look at the SCORE website. I come up to the top menu here, if it is at the top, and I go to New Share. This will then take me back to this box that has the files that are open, that I actually can choose from, and as we talked about being organized, I already have the SCORE website open. There's the SCORE website. No, if you haven't seen it, I suggest logging on. Score.org. It's a wealth of information. And now, if we want to actually get out of here and we want to go to another presentation, I can simply go back to New Share. And this would put me back on, say, my presentation. While we're talking about the menu with New Share, there is actually a shortcut, and the shortcut is Alt-Shift-S. There we go. This is actually sometimes a lot quicker than, again, trying to locate things on the menu. So we can also do Alt-Shift-S, and we're back out of it. So that's a very useful shortcut. Tip number 9 is to hide the floating menu that's at the top. So let's go back into sharing a screen, and I'm going to go to, say, the Score website, and you'll notice that this menu across the top here is actually covering up some of the things that we may be wanting to click on. This can be quite annoying. So a very, very useful tip here is hide the floating menu. To do that, we go along the top menu here, we go to More, and we drop down to Hide Floating Menu. And you'll notice that there is a shortcut for that as well, but it's 4 keys, and by the time you get to 4 keys, I'm not sure it's even a shortcut. So let's hide the floating menu. The floating menu's gone, and as you can see, there's a prompt here, Escape will bring the floating menu back. So now I've got rid of the floating menu. I can go up to various menus on the top here, which I could not get to when the floating menu was there. But let me bring the menu back. Press Escape. There we go. Tip number 10 is how to use a laser pointer when you're given a presentation on a shared screen. So let's go share a screen. Guess what? Alt-S. I'm going to pick, why not pick the website? It is a Score presentation, so let's pick the Score website. And now if I actually want to highlight my mouse, it can be very annoying for people to see the mouse moving around like this all the time, because it's a small mouse and they have to try to figure out where you're going to next. So let's go to the menu and go to something that most people never even click on, Annotate. If we annotate, we can go across and have Spotlight, for example, and my favorite one, and it looks like a laser pointer, is to simply come down and click on this, and you've got this little red dot that now moves around, much easier for people to see. That's one of my favorites actually, is in the Annotate menu. Tip number 11 is to draw on the screen. It's quite often that you're given a presentation and you need to highlight something. Obviously you can highlight it with a laser pointer using your mouse, but there are times that you may want to circle around things, write on them, draw on them, and Zoom allows you to do this. Again, it's in the Annotate button along the top menu. So let's do our standard practice of Alt-S, double click on the presentation, and then come to the top menu and have a look at Annotate. Click on Annotate, we get a menu of all the different things we can do, but let's go to something like Draw. As soon as you click on Draw, you will notice that there's a variety of things, squiggle lines, lines. Let's pick one, say a shaded circle, for example. I can do a shaded circle. I could do, what else? I can do basically squares, wavy lines, such as this, if I just want to sketch over it. All of these things can be done, and then you can actually also then simply press erase and basically erase what you have done. So Draw is a very, very useful addition to presenting something on Zoom. I hope these 11 tips were useful. If you have ideas or want to provide feedback on what you saw today, simply write to me at the email below. I look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye.